Hi everyone. My name is Sandeep Singh, and I'm having close to 10 years of experience in IT industry, and along with cloud computing, and I'm a developer, Java developer, and my area of interest is kind of a microservices architectural style and event-driven system. And yeah, so that's all very brief about me, and I'm having experience in kind of a different domain, like a payment domain and retail and travel and hospitality and supply chain. So that's all. Very brief introduction about me. So let me just share my screen. So let's start. Okay. So this is 2 days workshop. Okay. So what we are going to cover, it's 1.5 hour session today and tomorrow. And in day one, we are going to cover cloud computing overviews and types of cloud computing and what are the different Azure services are there. Okay. And Azure key concepts, like what are the different key concepts are there and how can we create a resource group. Okay. What are the different best practices we should be following for creating the resource group, and Azure virtual machines and Azure storage. So this is for today's, okay, for today's day one. And day two, we will be doing completely hands-on on these things like virtual machine, load balancing, Azure VM, and app services, Logic app, and web app. Okay. And please feel free to ask any question if you have any. Right. Okay. So let's start with the overview. Okay, so what exactly cloud computing is, right? What do we understand by the cloud computing, or what is cloud provider and all, right? So cloud computing, it's nothing, or cloud is nothing but it's just a huge data center, okay, or a huge infrastructure which is managed by cloud provider. So cloud provider is responsible for managing all these physical infrastructure, including VMs, including compute or storage, everything. So they are responsible for managing or maintaining the infrastructure, right? So we don't have to bother about our own infrastructure, right? So before jumping to the benefits or properties or feature of cloud computing, just I would like to give one example of e-commerce sale, right? So I think most of us are aware about Big Billions Day or Amazon Great India Sale, right? So what exactly happened, or in case let's say if I'm talking about the payment domain, then Cyber Monday is also very crucial, right? Or Thanksgiving Day. These are the very important events where a e-commerce company, they face a lot of spikes in the transactions, right? So what for example, let's say if there is no cloud provider, so how exactly we would have done? So we would have procure or a different kind of infrastructure, like physical infrastructure, maybe virtual machines, or server, or a database, right, or a physical load balancer. So those things we would have purchased or we would have procured if there is no cloud provider is available, right? And just for 2 to 3 days, because these spikes in transaction is happening just because of these events, right, like Big Billions or Great India Sale. And after 3 or 4 days, those physical machines or those infrastructure would remain same, because I don't means it's of no use, right? Because unnecessarily we are wasting millions of money, millions, right, like just for procuring those kind of infrastructure, and just for couple of days, like 2 or 3 days, correct? So what cloud providers say, so what they do, so cloud computing, they will automatically allocate more resources, or we can say the services. So resources, we will talk about what exactly do we mean by the resource and service, right? So they provide, so they will automatically allocate some resources just to handle the increased traffic, or just to handle the spikes in traffic, right, or spikes in transaction. And whenever these traffics become normal, or these traffic begins a normalized situation, right, then automatically it will be a deallocated, right? So it's a kind of auto scaling. It means whenever we want, we can scale it up, and whenever we want, we can scale it down, right? So that's a beauty about a cloud provider, right? And most of us, we must be knowing there are multiple cloud provider. Like very famous cloud provider is Microsoft Azure, and then Amazon AWS, and we have Google GCP, right? So in that sense, we can say that it's of rapid deployment as well as rapid deallocation, right? So whenever we want, we can scale it up, and whenever we want, we can scale it down. So another very important feature of a cloud provider or cloud services, like, that's a reliability, right? So what do we mean by the reliable system? So reliable, it means, like, let's say whenever we want to back up our data, then we don't need to bother about data backup. It's up to the cloud provider. Just there are some settings, there are some properties or configuration where we can do that. Okay, those configuration, we can do that, and automatically the backup will start. And the second thing is very important in terms of the reliability, and that is the disaster recovery management, right? So as we know, like, a disaster can happen anytime, right? It can be a manual, or it can be a natural, or it can be including a natural calamities also, right? So so let's say if something happened and we lost our data, we lost our customer data, and we lost our infrastructure, then it's very bad, and it will be very difficult to come up again with that particular application, or with the user data, right? It's hard to. So if you're not going for the cloud provider, then we need to manage all those things with our own. We need to manage the infrastructure, we need to manage the different kind of resources, right? So that's very important feature, that reliability. And apart from reliability, I would say the scalability, right? High availability. So what do we mean by high availability? It means it's provider responsibility that my application is 99.99% up and running, right? So cloud provider, they will take care of your application. So your application will be up and running, right? So that's how we can say that they maintain a high availability feature, right? And we should not forget about the security part, right? Because security is very important concern, right? Because whenever we are talking about application, so application security is very important. And there are a lot of security measures being taken just to secure the application. In terms of the we will discuss on that, like, there are multiple resources, like Key Vault is there, where we can store our configuration file in encrypted way, and no one can decrypt it, right? It's a one way encryption. So a lot of security measurement is there. Different kind of a certification is there, different kind of authentication is there. So single sign-on is there, right? And centralized authentication, you can configure with your on-premises configuration, right? So those are the very important feature and very important properties of cloud computing, right? Okay. So so let's talk about the different types of cloud computing. So there are multiple, but here we are just focusing on a three part. One is SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, right? So what are these things like? What is infrastructure as services? So if we compare with the older, means previous days, then infrastructure, we can say that it can be a router and switches. It can be a firewall. It can be physical infrastructure, or VM, or security, or load balancer, like hardware load balancer, or clustering, or storage. So these are the infrastructure which we will get as part of a service over the internet, right? So these are the infrastructure which we will be getting as part of a service, HTTP. So we don't need to manage all these infrastructure within, just we can log in into the portal. Maybe I will discuss on, like, what are the different ways through which we can create a different kind of infrastructure. So these are these are like infrastructure as service. A very good example of infrastructure as service like VM, virtual machines, where we can uh, run our code, we can build, we can run, we can deploy it, right? So infrastructure as service is a very basic category of any cloud computing services, right?
Just one question. Don't you think that if I think about the database data perspective, so don't
Okay.
you think that our data is in cloud provider hand? So it is a security issue,
Sorry, data is with cloud provider. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So
So
now our data, private data or any kind of data is in their
okay.
hand.
Hmm.
So they can utilize or they can do anything.
Yeah, but it's kind of a, you will be having the security in place, right? No one can, and there will be a different kind of agreement, right? Whenever you are going with any cloud provider, then definitely there would be some agreement so that they cannot leverage those data, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
let's, yeah.
just to add to that,
Mhm.
sorry, Sandeep.
Yeah.
So Ramashankar, I think so. The way companies ensure that the data is safe. So one is they have NDA agreements with the cloud providers that you can't disclose the data to anyone, and also at the same time you can't use that, right? However, that being said, there are security measures as well that these cloud providers ensure that your data is safe and it does not leak, as Sandeep mentioned, and it does not go out of the system, right? So all those things are in place, right? And if you look at I'm not sure which company do you work with, but even the customers data, right? So if you look at customers data, some companies, they have agreement on that as well, that we won't be using customer data for any other purpose, right? So for example, Flipkart says that we won't be using any data to sell it to other third parties, right? So as Sandeep mentioned, it's more about the agreements
Trust,
and
trust and agreement.
trust,
Yeah.
right? And in case someone is not following that trust, then he's not following the legal guidelines,
Correct. Right.
right? In that sense.
Like there are a lot of compliance thing, like maybe if you would have heard about PCI DSS compliance. So a lot of compliance, lot of certification will be there if let's say if there is any secure data, like if user data is there. So for that there are a lot of rules and regulation which they cannot violate, right? Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So now we'll talk about the PaaS, right? So what exactly the platform as service means. So what cloud providers trying to do that, they are giving you a platform as a service. Platform as a service, it means platform is also available over the web, over the internet. You don't need to, it means platform where you can build your application, you can run your application, and you can deploy your application, right? So there are multiple platform which is being provided as service by the cloud providers, right? One of the very good example of Azure web services or app services or mobile services. So these are the PaaS which we can leverage it as a platform. Okay. So these PaaS model, they provide you an environment, they provide you an environment for building and testing your application, so that you don't need to worry about a platform readiness, right? You just focus on your logic. Your platform is ready, your tools are ready, you just need to write your logic, and you test it and deploy it. So that's it. So that's about PaaS. So let's talk about the SaaS. So this is also a very important types of cloud computing, and which is a software as service. It's a method of software delivery, right? And that allows data to be accessed from any device. Maybe it may be a mobile, or it may be a laptop, or any channel, maybe a web channel or mobile channel, right? So it can be available over the internet. And very good example is like, let's say I'm talking about the Gmail or Facebook. So that's a SaaS, right? That's a software as service. Anyone can use it over the phone, or anyone can use it over the laptop. So this is a Gmail or Facebook, or I think most of us might be using a Microsoft Office or Office 365. So that's also one of the very good example of SaaS, software as service. Okay. So let's talk about some of the important Azure services. Okay, so some of the important Azure services is compute service and application service, network service, and data service. These are the main services. There are a hell lot of services which Azure provide, or which any of the cloud provider they provide, but we are going to focus only on these things, which I believe like these are the very basic and important feature of any cloud provider. So we will be discussing on these things, these Azure services. Okay. So again, compute service, as the name suggests, this is for a computation, or for building the application, or testing the application, right? Or just compute the business logic, all right? So there are multiple services which Azure provide. Like one is virtual machine, right? Azure virtual machine, and even you can create this virtual machine in multiple flavor. Maybe you can opt a Linux, or you can opt a Windows operating system. Even in Linux also there are different kind of operating system. Means different kind of flavors, right? That also you can opt. And let's say if I just wanted to build a web application, then I can go for the Azure web app. And if I want to build a mobile application, then I can go for the Azure mobile apps. There is other services also, like a logic app. So logic app is also one of the compute services, where you don't need to provide any server detail and all. It will compute, or it will do everything at their end. Okay, you don't need to configure the services. Like, just I'm giving you one example for logic app. Like, let's say on a daily basis, for example, if I'm doing some batch job, I think most of us, or a few of us, might be working with the data. So there is a batch time, or if I'm talking about the batch system, then we might need to push some alert, right, on a some time manner, like maybe after every 4 hour, or on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, we want to send some alerts. So for that, we can go for the logic app, and we can configure our the logic. Like, let's say if I do this transformation 1 to transformation 2, once transformation 2 is successfully done, then I should be triggering an email, or I should be sending a different kind of alert notifications, right? Push alerts, or a different kind of a notification we can send through the logic app. We don't need any kind of a server. There are a lot of integration, there are a lot of plugins are available which we can utilize the logic app. So one example is sending an email, one example is sending an alert, one example is let's say our build is going on and something got failed, or maybe in Jenkins we are using Jenkins, and some Jenkins, some failure alerts is there. That way, if you want to send those kind of alert to the Slack, or to the communicator, or to the Microsoft team, then these plugins are available. We don't need to code, just it's just kind of a plug and play. You can go to that logic play, and you can choose what are the add-ons you want, and you can start working on. So after compute service, let's talk about application service, right? Uh, Service for building and operating applications, right? So I think most of us might be aware about the not Azure Active Directory, right? Where generally all the user ID and password, or a user credential, maybe you can say a user credential for any organization, will be uh, uh, will be having all those details. Like earlier days we used to do LDAP also, right? Just for configuring the user details. Okay, so Azure Active Directory is a very important thing, and uh, it is for authentication and authorization purpose. Like, let's say if I want to if I have multiple APIs, okay, and maybe I'm working on the APIs and someone wants to consume my API, they can, whether they are allowed to access those APIs or not, so that we can handle it, or that we can block it, and we can manage those role based access control through the Azure Active Directory. Okay, so that's very important application services there. The other thing is SD Insight. So whoever is having a big data experience, so they might correlate it. So SD Insight, it's kind of a bunch of big data tools and technologies which Azure is having. It's a bunch of big data technologies like maybe Hadoop or Hive or different big data tools just for the processing big data. So this has also been provided by the Azure, right? Then one important part is a network service, right? Whenever we want to secure our application or whenever we want to uh, maintain the security within the DNS or within the VM, like let's say if you want to restrict some of the VMs for a specific location, so those things we can handle through the network services, right? One is a very important virtual network, and then express route is there. So what express routes is, like let's say if some people or some organization, if they want explicit express route, explicit channel for sending or receiving the data, then they can use express route. So it's kind of a lease line, and it will be dedicated to that particular organizations. Okay, and then we have the DNS and then traffic manager. Then important thing in aspects of data engineer, and that is a data service. So Azure is providing a service for even a data engineer or for an application developer or for an architect or for machine learning or for artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of categories are there which people can utilize it, right? So data service is, it's nothing but it's just a managing and storing the data, right? It's just a managing and storing. Like how can we store the data? We can store any kind of a data, right? Or we can store maybe a SQL data or maybe a relational data or a non-relational data, right? Maybe it's kind of a columnar family or a document deep or a document, or maybe I want to store a JSON file, or let's say a PDF or image or any kind of a blob. I can store it and I can process it. So very important service which Azure provide, that's a data lake. It's a centralized location where you can dump any kind of a data. It doesn't matter whether you are having the schemas or not. It doesn't matter whether you are storing a PDF or storing an image or you are storing a blob, right? It can be any of data. So the data lake is capable of handling any kind of data. Then second thing is a blob storage. They provide a blob storage also. So actually Azure is having a data lake Gen 1, and they are rolling out Gen 2 also, and they merged data lake as well as blob storage combined, and that's a Gen 2. And then if I talk about that, they have a SQL database, they have SQL DW data warehouse, SQL database, and then a very good important service is Cosmos DB, which is very important, which will provide you a different interface. Okay, let's say if uh, someone is a SQL developer, then using a Cosmos DB, you can have a SQL interface. Or if someone is maybe a Cassandra developer, then the same Cosmos DB is having a CQL interface, Cassandra Query Language interface. If someone is Mongo expert, then we have a Mongo's interface also, right? So Cosmos DB is just it's just providing you an interface to interact any kind of a database. Maybe it's a columnar family, or maybe it's a document, or it can be a relational database, right? So these are the important services being provided by the Azure, and which is the data service.
Hi Sandeep, this is Kulbhushan. So I have a couple of questions. So
Okay.
we are talking about computing
Hmm.
and availabilities and security. So
Correct.
just wanted to know, curious to know, like, so there are various cloud computing or cloud in the market, right? Google, GCP,
Hmm.
AWS, Azure.
Yeah.
So in terms of availability or regions or geographical areas, like
Mhm.
why AWS is much more popular than Azure or Google?
So actually, AWS is pretty old. Okay, and Azure is also having same kind of a services, and some other, even Azure is releasing every quarter 600 or 500 features they are releasing every quarter. Okay, so because they are new in the market, and if you see that Azure is competing hard to the AWS, right? So popularity wise, definitely you can say community support is great in case of AWS, because people are utilizing or using AWS from long back. So definitely there will be a community support better than Azure. And if you got stuck in Azure, then what I believe, like, yeah, there are less community support, there are less resources available. Generally, if you are stuck somewhere, then if you go to the Stack Overflow, you may get a lot of things on related to the AWS. But for Azure, generally you will get at their documentation. But their documentation is very clear. That is very important thing. Documentation is very clear. The examples are very clear. Okay, and whatever features they have rolled it out, they have explained it very well. A lot of documents, a lot of PDFs, a lot of start guide is there, which you can follow. If you get stuck, you can follow their document. And they follow multiple languages like Java, .NET, PHP, Python, yeah, whatever you name, those things you can. So yeah, definitely, if you say the popularity wise, definitely AWS is popular in comparison to the Azure, since it's quite old, and good community support is with the AWS, right?
Third thing is like how we are managing our, deployment.
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
example, AWS, we are using AC3
Uh-huh.
tools and all, right, for
Mm.
deployment for content,
Correct.
Docker and containerization.
Right.
So, in Azure, what are the methods we use to deploy?
So, whatever deployment model, if you talk about, maybe if you talk about the EC2, or a Dockerized solution, or a container orchestration, if you talk about the container orchestration, like Kubernetes, or any other orchestration tool, right? So same thing is available into the Azure also. So like there, you have EC2 or something. So here we have virtual machine. In one virtual machine, you can have your JDK installed. You can have a different software, like let's say if you want to install a code coverage tool, or if you want to install a different tools and technologies, then different tools, then within that VM you can install it. And even if you want, you can install your any kind of a app server or web server, right, in that particular VM, and you can deploy it like generally we do with a VM, right? And after that, what was the problem with the VM, and how we can come up with a containerized solution, right? Because in VM we cannot have more than one JDK. Like let's say if I'm talking about, let's say for example, if I want to deploy more than one application in the VM, and let's say my application 1 is using a JDK 8 and my application 2 is using JDK 11, right? So I cannot do that in VM, correct? So that was a constraint of VM. That's a different topic itself. Maybe we can discuss it later. Okay, so we'll come to the point. So VM and Dockerized solution. Even here also the Dockerized solution is available. The containerized solution is available. You can build your application using the Docker, and you can containerize it. Okay, and if you talk about the container orchestrator, right? So container orchestrator, we have AKS. Azure is having AKS, that is Azure Kubernetes cluster. So first thing is Azure Kubernetes cluster, and the second thing is ACR, Azure Kubernetes register. Okay, like generally, if you talk about the Docker, then you must have heard about Docker Hub, right, or Docker images. So generally, what we do, we stored our images. We store our images into the Docker Hub, or maybe our own private repo or public repo. That's up to us. So similarly here also, Azure provide every organization, they can obtain or they can create their own ACR, container registry, not Kubernetes registry. Sorry. So that's Azure Container Registry. Okay. So being an organization, I can create my own ACR, and I can have my own images ready and I can push it continuously to that ACR. Like let's say if I'm keep on developing, then I might be having a different version of container images, and then I can push it into the ACRs. Okay, and whenever I want, I can go to the previous version, I can pull it off, like as we do into the GitHub or any kind of repository management, right? So here we have ACR, here we have AKS, Azure Kubernetes Cluster. So Azure Kubernetes Cluster is also providing you a namespace, okay, where in that single namespace you can have multiple pods, okay, and in that pod you can deploy your container images, right? You can deploy your images. So that's how we can deploy. Let's say if I'm talking, so this is a containerized deployment, which I'm taking help of ACR and AKS. And another deployment model, like let's say if I'm not going for the containerized solution, if I'm going for like a standalone deployment, I don't want to do a containerized, like let's say just a normal web application. I'm building a web application and I can deploy it into any kind of a Tomcat or any kind of a server like Jetty or any kind of application server or web server, that I can have it into my VM and I can deploy my solution over there. So that is one part. And the third kind of solution is that's a web app, which we will be looking tomorrow in the hands-on. So that's a web app or mobile app. Let's say if you want to deploy your mobile application, then you can create a mobile app resource. If you want to create a web app, then you can create a web application, web app. Okay, it's a web app service. It's a software as service where you can build your application and you can deploy your model or you can deploy your application. Did I answer your question, or you have any doubt?
Yeah, I got it. So
Okay.
here, majorly we are using Kubernetes clusters to deploy and doing containerization.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's one of the model. That's one of the model. But let's say if you don't want to use a containerized solution, then you don't need to go to the AKS or ACR. You can go to the normal VM or normal web app deployment. Yeah. So what are the key concepts are there? Okay, so the first thing is Azure portal. Like as you know, a different cloud provider or cloud vendors, they will be having their own portal where you can log in through your credential and you can see all those resources. You can create resources, right? You can have multiple security mechanism. You can create, you can bind it, you can deploy, build, do everything, right? So that's Azure portal. Maybe I will just show it to you. Okay, so that's Azure portal. The second thing is the resources. What exactly do we mean by the resources? So here resources means like everything in Azure is a resource. Like VM is a resource, Cosmos DB is a resource, VNet is a resource, right? Everything is a resource. We are calling it as a resource. Like let's say if I want to create a web app, then I will call it as a web app resource. That's a resource. There are different kind of resources, different categories of resources, but these are the resources, right? And there is one concept of resource group. It's like an umbrella, and within that umbrella there can be a multiple resource group. Sorry, there can be a multiple resources. So here how the hierarchy is. So there is a tenant and then subscription. There is one tenant will be unique for an organization, and then subscription. Under that subscription, I may have, under one organization I may have multiple subscription. Okay, for example, if let's say if I'm talking about any service organization, then they will be having, let's say, a healthcare domain. There will be a banking and finance domain. There will be a payment domain. So maybe BFS domain, they might be having their own subscription, and healthcare domain, they will be having their own subscription. Travel and hospitality, they will be having their own subscription, right? But tenant will be one for a company, for organization. And within one subscription there can be a multiple resource group. Okay, resource group. So resource group, generally how we should be creating the resource group. So resource group, like let's say if I'm having a dev, prod, or test, or SIT, or performance, then I can have a 5 resource group, right? For each and every environment I can create resource group. Okay, I can create the resource group, and under one resource group I can be having a multiple resources. So let's say I'm using a database called a SQL DB. then I can have my SQL DB in that resource group. I can have my Java application in that resource group. I can have Docker in that resource group. I can have my own AKS in that resource group. So those things, so these are the resources, like web app is a resources, AKS is resources, ACR is resources. These resources can be created under one resource group, and one resource group can be associated with one environment. Okay. So then after the resource group, then it's a resource manager template. Okay, so what exactly the resource manager template is? So template is nothing but it's a we call it as a ARM template, like it's a Azure resource management template. So we talked about infrastructure as service, platform as service, and software as service. So similarly, we have like infrastructure as code also. Okay, so infrastructure as code, it means we can have some line of code, and using those line of code, we can create the resources. Let's say if I want to create some VM, or if I want to create some load balancer, all those things, what I can do, I can create those resources, okay, by writing some code. So that we call it as a resource manager template, and that's ARM, Azure Resource Manager template. Okay, so that's about infrastructure as code. Okay, and then automation is also very important, and we can achieve automation through the Azure. So there are multiple ways through which we can create the resources. There is Azure portal, and there is a Azure command line interface, which we talk about the CLI. AWS is also having a portal and kind of a command line interface. And then we have a REST APIs also. So let's say if some of the developer, if they are working, or they are working on kind of infrastructure provisioning, they can leverage the API, the infrastructure APIs which is being provided by the Azure. They can consume it and they can do the necessary action. So REST API is there. They have the Azure SDK also. Okay. So as we talked about the resource group, then there are some good practice or some tips which we should be following while creating the resource group, right? So for example, like as I said, so resource group, in one resource group, we should not have all the resource created. Okay, otherwise, let's say if one resource group got deleted or something, then what will happen? Then we will be losing all those resources, right? So the resource group should be in sync with the environment. Like let's say if I'm having a 5 environment, then I should be having a 5 resource group, and I should be having all those resources associated with those resource group. Okay, so you can add or remove any resources from that resource group at any given point in time. Whenever I want, I can add or I can remove, right, any from any resource group. Okay, so these are kind of best practices generally we should be following while creating the resource group. Like let's say, just I talked about a previous example. Let's say if let's say there is an organization called XYZ. So under that organization, there can be multiple domain, or multiple horizontals or verticals. Okay, so they can be having their own resource group. Okay, they can be having their own subscription. Under that subscription, there can be multiple resource group, and under that resource group, we can create multiple resources based on the environment. Like let's say for prod, I may need some more resources, but for my development environment, uh, for example, I don't need multiple resources to do my development activities, right? So if these resource groups are segregated, right, then it would be easy for us, it would be easy for identify. And resource group, it's just a logical separation. Like whenever, like if we follow a proper strategy for creating a resources and resource group, for example, let's say if I want to delete any kind of a resource in any kind of an environment, in any specific environment, then I can directly go to that particular environment and I can add it or delete it. Otherwise, like let's say if you put into all the resources in one resource group, then it would be confusing, right? So because you will have to keep in mind which resource you are going to delete. By mistake, you might delete a production resource, right? So just to avoid that, there should be a logical separation. Okay. So yeah, so as we talk about the Azure VMs, okay, Azure virtual machine. So this is like similar concepts is there in AWS also. Okay. For what purpose we do a virtual machine, or for what purpose we use Azure virtual machine? So same, whenever we want to build any application or deploy any application or test any application, or if we want to do a code coverage or any kind of activities if you want to do, then we can have a virtual machine. And there are multiple ways we can create the virtual machine. One through the portal. Okay, one through the portal we can create it. Through the PowerShell we can create. PowerShell is also, it's kind of a shell scripting language where you can create, and through command line is also we can do that. So similarly, we talked about the Azure storage also. So in Azure storage, we have blob storage, we have file storage, we have data lake, we have multiple kind of, like Cosmos DB is one of the storage, right? So as we discussed on the Cosmos DB, there are multiple interfaces being provided by that database. Like let's say if someone is interested into kind of a Cassandra interface, then they can opt Cassandra, or if someone is interested in Mongo, then they can specify a Mongo's interface. All right, all those things. Okay. So before I jump to the portal, so guys, please, if you have any question, then just let me know.
Sandeep, if you
Yeah.
can just give us a little bit history about Azure, like how, like when they have started, and things like that. Like
Hmm.
what are the various certifications are available in the market, or those kind of things, like the basic things. It would be great. Like otherwise, we need to do our own research. You might be
Okay.
well aware of those things.
Okay. So when they started that, I exactly don't remember, like when Azure is being started. Okay. But definitely, since AsappJob, they are also have a good course curriculum, right? So probably if someone is interested in deep dive, or because Azure is very vast, right? We cannot say, and we cannot learn in 1.5 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour session, right? There are different component. Or if you talk about Azure there is Azure fundamental, right? There is a Azure DevOps, correct? There is Azure solution architect for application developer, for big data engineer, for EIML professionals. So there are hell lot of services are there. Okay. So for that, there will be a multiple course curriculum. Okay, which maybe you can get in touch with the ASAP. They can guide you. And what about the resources? Yeah, there are a lot of resources are available. So probably for everything, a documentation, their own documentation. Any software, the documentation would be a good point to start anything.
So my question is like, if
Mhm.
somebody from a developer standpoint, who
Okay.
is who is doing Java development or .NET development or C++ or any development,
Hmm.
so which certification is really needed for him or her, or
Okay.
if he's in some deployment or in Jenkins or
Hmm.
CI/CD
Okay.
domain or
Correct.
deployment. So if he needs to jump or
Hmm.
enhance his career, right? So
Hmm.
how he can do the basic certification he needs to do, so that immediately he can get start exposing the Azure or any cloud platform. That's what I just wanted to start with.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Right. Okay. So in terms of the certification, right? So there are multiple certification. Like as I said, first is Azure. There is Azure 400. There is Azure 900. Okay. So there are multiple examination. Like let's talk about 220. There is a EZ220. That's a IoT developer, for IoT developer. Okay. So whoever is interested into the IoT development, they can go for the certification, or they can go for that course, EZ220. Then there is a data analytics associate also. That is also one of the certificate. Like let's say if you are a data analyst and you want to you want to grow in that aspects, then you can go for the data analyst or data associate certification and course. Okay, so that can be done. And then there is DP 300. So DP 300, it's totally for the DBA, right? As I said, there are lot of certificate, lot of courses are there, but it's you decide, like you have to decide which course you are interested in and which certification you are interested in. So for DBA, there is a DP 300, right? And for data science, there is a DP 100, right? And for data solution, then like let's say if you are kind of a solution architect, you want to build some big data solution, then there is a 200 one. For example, if you talk about the or maybe if someone is architect and if they are playing architect role, then AZ 300 is there, like that is a Microsoft Azure architect certification. Then there is a AZ 400. Okay, that's for DevOps. Like if someone wants to build a career into DevOps, maybe Docker, Kubernetes, or because Azure is having their own DevOps, which we call it as a ADO, Azure DevOps. There you will find each and everything. Even you will find repository management. You will find a Docker. You will find Kubernetes. You will find a build pipeline. You can create your own pipeline. You can create different stages, right? So most of the things are there, which is related to the DevOps that you can cover with that certification. Is it 400? Okay, so that's all about the kind of a certification. And then we have kind of 900, EZ 900, and that is a fundamental which every developer should be aware about. Like whatever I'm discussing here, that's a part of fundamental, because I'm not focused in kind of a solution architect or kind of database or AI, ML or IoT, because those are the different courses. If someone is interested, definitely they can get in touch with the ASAP, right? So they can get in touch with them, and probably they will guide you, like what are the courses are available, and what are the, they can guide you for the certification also, right? So those things are there. So but let's say on a high level, if you are a developer, right, so you should be having a knowledge on a fundamental, Azure fundamental, and that is it 900, if I remember. Maybe I might be wrong, but that's Azure fundamental, and that is EZ 900. For DevOps, it's EZ 400. Like if you want to learn the DevOps activities, if you want to learn the build pipeline stages, all those things, so those things you can go through with the EZ 900, right? So did I answer your question?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay, okay, no problem. Yeah,
So, for any developer, I think the kickstart is to know the fundamental and do some certification about the fundamental of Azure.
it's not certification is not required, as I means what I believe, what personally I believe. Why do you want a certification? You want the knowledge, right? So maybe you can attend the course, and if for your purpose, like if you are getting benefited out of the certification, that then definitely you should go for that, right? So first of all, knowledge, right? Knowledge is very important. So you can have fundamental course where you will be given a hands-on experience on all those resources, and how would you deploy your solution, how would you create the resources, how would you create the resource group, how would you handle the security mechanism. So fundamental will cover each and every part, but not in depth, right? So like for example, if I want to build a web app, I can so that should be the part of a fundamental course: building a web apps, building and testing web apps, deploying it into a VM, deploying it into web app, deploying it into a kind of a Docker and Kubernetes environment, right? Like AKS cluster. Then then the second thing is very important, configurations, right? How do you secure your web application, how would you secure your mobile application? So that is also part of a fundamental course, where where you will get to know, like how can I secure my APIs, how can I secure my application, how can I implement a role based access control, how can I create my web application, how can I do a mobile application, right? Or a basic database or basic virtual machine, a DB, and a VNet, right? A Logic app. So on a high level, these are like very important services which will be covered into the fundamental courses. Okay. And if you want a specific course, like let's say someone is interested into the DevOps activity, then definitely we can come up, or maybe you can get in touch with the uh, ASAP, and they will guide you like what are the different courses are available for a different stream, maybe for DevOps or for solution architect or for IoT or for AIML, right? So any other question?
So
Hmm.
for a normal developer, will that be relevant to having more knowledge about architect solution on Azure instead of having just the fundamentals?
So I think if you are a developer, then definitely you might not be building a solution, right? You might not be choosing the tools and technologies. You might not be doing POCs on a higher level. Like let's say, what's the role of architect? So they have to whatever the problem statement is been given, so according to that problem statement I should be choosing the accurate tools and accurate technologies, right, that I have to evaluate being a solution architect. So those kind of aspects or those kind of thinking, logical thinking or design thinking will be provided into the solution architect course. But definitely for the fundamental is required for each and every people who is interested or who is going to work on the Azure.
Thanks, Sandeep. Much
Yeah,
appreciated.
no problem. Thank you very much. So can you see the portal.azure.com?
Yeah, yeah.
So this is how the portal will look like. Okay, this is how the overview would be there. This is my personal account. Okay, which I had created just for the creating a services and deploying my web application or mobile application. So these are the different categories. If you can see the categories like compute categories and networking categories and storage, web, mobile, containers, database, analytics, blockchain, whatever you name it, all those categories are available. AI plus machine learning, then IoTs and integration, identity, security, DevOps, everything is there. So already we discussed on the compute part and we were discussing on the networking, right? So under the networking, there is a network security group, right, an NSG group, and that NSG is very important for securing or VM or for creating uh, a virtual private network and all those things, right? And then we talked about the then we'll look on the storage part, right? So in storage there are different kind of storage, as I said. A data lake, right? You can see here a data lake store. That's a generation one, and Azure is releasing a Gen 2 also. In Gen 2, what is the difference between Gen 1 and Gen 2? Like earlier, we used to have a data lake, and maybe you can see here a blob storage as well. Okay, a blob storage as well. So yeah, so you can see the storage account, right? So these two things will be combined into the data lake Gen 2. Okay, then recovery service vault is there for kind of a security purpose. Okay, and then storage explorer, data share. Okay, so these are in terms of the storage. Then in web app, in web we have the app services, we have API management. This is also very important feature. Maybe I will not be able to give you a demo on this API management service, but definitely I will tell you about the API management service, how important the API management service is. Maybe I think a lot of people you would have heard about API gateway. A lot of tech companies, they will be having their own developer portal, right? Like in Visa, we used to have like visa.developer developer.com. So like xyz.developer.com. So where exactly what happens? So in that developer.com or developer portal, so people or organization, they expose their APIs, their set of APIs, so that a third party or any or people or any other business, they can consume those application and they can build the application, right? And a lot of things you can do into the API management service. Like let's say if I want to do a rate limit, if I want for some people, if they are not allowed to access more than 10 requests per second. So those things I can configure it into the API management service, right? I can have a lot of policies over there. I can configure a different policies in the API management service. Okay, so that's very important service in terms of the tech companies also. That's a very good feature. And then we have the search services also, Azure search. So I think most of the people would have heard about Elasticsearch, right? So that's a search technology which is based on the Apache Lucene and Elasticsearch. So Azure has also come up with their own Azure search, which underlying is being used Elasticsearch and Apache Lucene. Okay, so that is also a service has been given over the web. Okay, that's a search service. You can search within given fraction of time. So it's kind of a full text search. It will be provided. Okay, and then we have the mobile categories. In mobile categories also we have app services and power platform, and this is mostly for the mobile developer. And then we have the containers. So this is also one of the very important categories, where container service, or which I talked about, Kubernetes services, or container instance, or container registry. So container registry, where you will push your container image to that particular registry, right? And where you will use a Kubernetes cluster, right? So these are the containers instances, right? Okay. And then database is another category. Like I talked about the Azure Cosmos DB. So this is a very good important feature which has been provided by the Cosmos, which has been provided by the Azure, where you will be having multiple interfaces, okay, like Mongo, Cassandra, and SQL interfaces. Then you can create Azure SQL. You can have a like a normal SQL DB, that also you can create. SQL database we are having, and we can create a Postgres SQL. We can have a SQL server. We can have a kind of a cache also, like Redis. I think most of the people are aware about Redis. So that's also you can have any kind of a distributed cache, or any kind of DB you can create in this database categories, right? Okay, so similarly there are bunch of categories are available, like analytics are there. You can go through with that. And then blockchain, using blockchain also, AI plus machine learning. There are cognitive service and bot service. Machine learning is there. You can create the ML pipeline and all. Machine learning studios are there, where you can deal with the structured unstructured data. You can build your model, you can deploy your model, everything. You can create your ML pipeline. You can do that in AI plus machine learning. Then someone is interested in IoT, then they can go for the IoT hub. All these things are like Logic App, Cosmos DB. So that those are some of the feature you might see in multiple categories, because those can be utilized in different categories, like Cosmos DB, right, or Logic App. So these can be leveraged, or these can be utilized in multiple categories. So that's the reason it's been showed multiple times. Okay, then you have the integration. Identity is very important, maybe which we can discuss tomorrow also, like Active Directory. And I can show you like how can we create the Active Directory. It's a similar like LDAP, which earlier days we used to do um, for configuring the organization user details. We have the groups, app registration. How can we register any application to the like, let's say if I'm building some application, okay, I need to register in my organization AD, so that people within my organization, they can use it, or they can access it without any credential. That should be a single sign on. So that we can do through via app registration or enterprise application for a given organizations, okay, using Azure Active Directory. Then there is there is a security part, okay. So security also, a lot of cool features are there, and good features like Key Vault is there. Key Vault is very important feature, where you encrypt all your configuration, like your client ID, your client secrets, and a lot of sensitive information. You can dump it into the Key Vault, and it would be a secure. No one can. It's a one-way encryption. No one can decrypt it. Okay, and then finally DevOps is also there. In DevOps, as I said, like ADO, Azure DevOps. So it's a big course in itself, because Azure DevOps, there are a lot of things are available in Azure DevOps. Okay, so I think that's all about for today. So if anyone is having any question, then please let me know.
Yeah, Sandeep, Rajiv here. So
Yeah, Rajiv.
I just wanted to know about the tomorrow session. Can you brief about the tomorrow session? What are the things you're gonna cover up? Whether it's gonna be completely theoretical
Sure.
part, or you're gonna do some kind of practicals as well, right?
Yeah. So it would be a hands-on session, complete hands-on on virtual machine. Like we will look on how we can create our virtual machine in Azure, and then we will try to deploy some of the resources into the virtual machine. We will try to create. We'll log into that virtual machine and create some build some application and try to deploy that. Then I will talk about not only the talk. Then tomorrow is completely it's a hands-on. Then logic app, what exactly the logic app is and how we can leverage it. We will create the logic app, and then web app, we will be working on the web app, and then Azure app services, we'll doing hands-on app services, and then load balancing Azure VM. So those are the things which we'll be doing tomorrow hands-on. And I will also show it to you, like how, let's say, if some of you might be using IntelliJ or VSTS code, how you can connect with Azure and how you can deploy your solution using IntelliJ or using VSTS code. So which I prefer, IntelliJ. So I will just give a demo on how you can interact, or how you can configure the plugins, and how you can create a virtual machine and ARM template and all those things. So it's tomorrow. It's kind of a full day. Sorry, not full day. It's a 1.5 hour session. It's a hands-on session. So does I answer your question, Rajiv?
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
So,
It's kind of full on hands-on. So yesterday we discussed about cloud computing overview, right? And what are the different cloud providers are there, and what are the different Azure services are there, right? And in terms of like a basic infrastructure as service and platform as service, and software as service, right? So SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS we talked about, and then we discuss about some of the concepts like virtual machines and all, right? And different categories we went through. What the different categories are available in Azure. So just first of all, today's agenda is like just to do the hands-on session. And so first, what I will just go through with that resources, okay, and then I'll just walk through you the portal, okay, and then we'll try to create a web app through IntelliJ. Maybe if someone is I think if there is a JS developer, then they can do they can do with the help of a VS Code as well. So it's a same kind of thing. And I will be doing here through IntelliJ, because I will be deploying a Java web application. And then what I'll be doing, same web application I will try to create with the portal as well, and I will try to deploy that, and we will access that web application. Okay, and then what we'll be doing, we will be creating a VNet as well, a virtual network. Okay, we will create a two VNet, and then we'll try to achieve a peering between two VNets, and we'll create a virtual machine. We'll try to log into the virtual machine. After that, I will talk about the logic app, and I will show you like how logic app can you utilized, and how we can create a logic app, how we can deploy that. And then yesterday's since one member yesterday asked about the container, then I will go through with the container instance deployment as well. Okay, I will not if time permits, then definitely I'll go through with the AKS also, Azure Kubernetes cluster. So that's all about. So okay, let's start. Okay, so as I said, like this is the portal.azure.com, and this is my credential, like it's my using my email ID, and this is a free trial version, and anyone can create with a free trial with a 30 days limit, right? And you will have to enter your credit card details, and you can create the portal, and you can create some resources on top of that. Yeah. So yesterday I discussed like the logical group. The logical group is the subscription, right? And a high level is a tenant. So first of all, tenant, and under that tenant there will be a multiple there can be a multiple subscription, and using one subscription there can be a multiple resource group. So in this case I'm having a free trial subscription, so that is the subscription, and I can create a multiple resource group, right? So if you see here, if you can see, then if I can go to the resource group. Okay, so let me go to the resource group. So actually Azure portal would be a bit slow, so uh, just bear with me. Yeah. So whenever we click on the resource group, so it should go to that particular resource group. So what exactly the resource group is a logical separation where we can have or maybe based on the environment, like let's say if you're talking about the dev environment or test environment or prod or intake environment or any kind of a perf environment. So using those environment, for those environment we can create a resource group. Okay, and for that resource group we can bunch multiple resources. Okay, and multiple resources. Resource can be of any type. It can be of any type, like it can be of a virtual machine, or it can be a vnet, or it can be a logic app or web app or mobile app or container instance. Anything can it be. Okay, so here you can see it like under the resource group I have a Java SKS. So I just created my resource group, like some Java SKS. Generally this I follow for my GitHub and all everything. So I've just created a resource group here, and there is one resource group is by default it's been created, a network watch resource group. So I'll just try to create a resource group as well. Okay, I'll first of all I just wanted to walk you through. Okay, so whenever I click on the Java SK or this resource group, so you can see all the resources. You can see all the resources which has been created into that particular resource group. Okay, so maybe you can see here like I'm having a ASP Java SKS. This is an app service. Then I had for logic app I had integrated with the Gmail, so you can see a Gmail service. Then I had a virtual network. Then I had created a 2 VNet, and similarly I just wanted to do a RSS feed, like I'll just show it to you in when I'll be doing in logic app, and we'll do the hands-on on logic app. Then we were trying to integrate with the RSS feed, like whenever any feed comes, so there should be an email or alert should there should be email notification triggered to that particular or mentioned email ID. Okay, then there is one resource for sample logic, and then I had created bunch of virtual machine. Okay, so this is about a resource group. Okay, so let me go through my IntelliJ. Okay, so can you see my IntelliJ? I hope you guys can see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So in IntelliJ, what the very first thing is, like whenever you want to integrate with the Azure portal, right, or maybe any cloud provider, so definitely you will have to install that plugin, right? Which I have done it here, Azure Explorer. So you can do it while you can do like this, like you can just go to the plugin. Okay, just go to the plugin and search for that plugin, and the plugin is Azure Explorer. So we can search here Azure Explorer. Yeah, so you can see here, right, like Azure Toolkit for IntelliJ, and since I have installed it in my IntelliJ, so there is no option for install because it's already been installed. So whoever wants to integrate that, they can go to the plugin section and try to search Azure Explorer, and then they will get this option, Azure Toolkit for IntelliJ, and then they can install it. when you install the plugin, first of all, you should be register your device with the Azure portal. Okay, so how can we register that Azure devices with the Azure portal? So here there is a logout option, so you just need to click on the login and it will ask you different options like what is the subscription you have. So whenever you log in with your credential, like your Azure portal credential, so it will fetch all those subscription, like whatever subscription I'm having. Like for example, maybe if there is an organization called XYZ and they might be having multiple subscriptions, so you can do a checkbox. Okay, you can do a checkbox and then you can select it from any given subscription. Okay, right? Like whenever let me refresh it and I can show it to you, like what are the resources, what are the resource group I'm having. Okay, yeah, so maybe you can see it here. I have a web app. Okay, whatever resource I will be creating using my Azure portal, so those resources we can see it here. Like I have done a container registry. Okay, I've done a Docker host, I've done SD Insight, Redis cache, and there is a resource management, right? So under the resource management, as I shown you on the portal, there was a Java SKS resource group, right? So that resource group you can see it here, and there was one resource group that was a network watch hierarchy, and then there is a storage account. So there is a storage account called a Java SKS DIAG, and then there is a virtual machine. So I had created a SKS Sandeep Kumar Singh VM2. That's a virtual machine name, and then I had created some web app also like SKS app. So that was the web app. Okay, so these are the resources which you can see it from the portal as well as you can see it in your IntelliJ. Okay, now let me go back to the project. Okay, so for example, I've just created a demo application. It's nothing, it's just a hello world application. Okay, so for example, if I want to deploy this application, so what exactly I need to do that? Just uh, uh, definitely first of all I have to create this web application. I have to uh, choose my archetype, right, from the Maven. Like whenever we do, like this, let me show it to you. For example, new project. So you can so from the project, if you go to the Maven, it will load a different kind of a archetype. So what exactly you have to do? You have to select the web app. Okay, and don't forget to mention your SDK. I'm using my Java version as 1.8. So here you have to select a web app. If you can see here, I have just highlighted here. Okay, one second, just let me create from archetype. Yeah, this should be a checkbox. Okay, and where exactly? Yeah, this is the one. So maybe you guys can see that like org Apache Maven and archetype, and the archetype is a Maven archetype web app. Okay, so this is archetype web app. Whenever you do a next, right, whenever you do a next, you can do a group ID like anything like com.sks or something jh, and then you can mention some artifact ID like basic name or something, and then you can do the next, and you can select, and you can just review it. What is the group ID, artifact ID, and version and group ID, artifact ID. Okay, go to the next and select the path, and you can finish it up. Okay, I'm not going to finish this because I'm already having. So once you do that, all because since you had opted for that specific archetype, that Maven archetype, so it will download each and every dependencies. Okay, if you notice here pom.xml, then you can see these are the dependencies, right? These are the dependencies like uh, um, mm, all those dependencies you can see it here. Okay, you can just go through with that pom, and this is just like a normal web application. So archetype created a web application. It's okay. And if you see here the library, then I'm having a 1.8, and it will download all those dependencies. Okay, and it will give you a basic index.jsp also, right? Like for example, as of now I may change this, Sandeep. Hello world, hello Sandeep, not hello world. Okay, and then what I can do, I can just click on here and right click. There will be an option for Azure. So once you install the plugin, that Azure toolkit, so you can see the Azure Explorer as well as you can see the Azure option. Okay, so if you can see here Azure, so there is a deploy to Azure. So whenever we click deploy to Azure, so how it will get to know on what is the Azure account, right? What is the Azure account and which portal you have to choose, which portal you have to deploy, right? So since you have already configured your devices, your device, and you have connected to Azure portal through your devices, then it will not ask you again and again because it's already authenticated. So maybe if people would have worked on the token based authentication or authorization, so it's similar like that. So whenever you try to access any resource via giving any client ID or secret, so they will give you a token, and that token will get stored here. As long as, since you are registering the device and you are telling Azure, so this is a genuine device and I can access portal on this device using this IntelliJ, right? So that I can do it. So now let me deploy to Azure. Sorry, anyone is having any question?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
sorry if I miss. Have you have you told like how to configure our device on Azure?
Yeah, that's I discuss initially. So it's nothing. Okay, just let me just give you a quick. Okay, so it's nothing. Just you need to install one plugin, Azure Explorer, and whenever you click, as soon as you install the plugin, okay, whenever you click on the Azure Explorer, so here there is a. Can you see here Azure sign out?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, you can see it here, right? So since I'm logged in, so it is asking me to signing out. But as soon as you install the plugin, there will be an option for Azure sign in. And when you do sign in, it will ask you your credential, and it will ask you to register your device for portal access. Okay, that's it. That's all you have to do, nothing else. So you are just registering your device, and device login you can do, and it will redirect it you to the web portal. Okay, and it will give you one code. You can copy that code into that portal and you can log in it, right? Will that be fine?
Is there any the secure token we need to generate through any scan ID or something, so that we need to download any Google codes or something like that, so that we can you know do
Yeah,
some
so what exactly?
authentication.
Yeah, I got your point. I got your point. Yeah. So what exactly, it will give you a code, and that code you have to paste it over just to authenticate your device and yourself. Okay, and then it will allow your IntelliJ to access all the resources which is available on your Azure portal. Okay, and then what I discussed, like how can you create the project. Okay, just I went to the file and new, like normal project creation in IntelliJ. Just you need to select the web app archetype, and once you select the web app archetype, all the dependencies and project will get downloaded, and you can start building on that. Okay, so I was talking about let's deploy this application. Okay, so at the bottom you can see there is a Azure link. Okay, there is a Azure link, Azure option, and here you can see the deploy to Azure. So once you click on the deploy to Azure, so your artifact will be mentioned here and your web app will be mentioned here, right? Maybe what I can tell you, I can I can delete this web app, and then again I will try to create it. Okay, so since I have created the web app, then I will try to, now I have to run that. Okay, as soon as I run, you can see in the console it will try to deploy the application. So now you can see. So first of all, what it is doing, it is stopping the web app, getting deployment credential. And since you don't need to provide the credential again and again because you have stored the token, so that's the reason. and then it is connecting to the FTP server. Okay, so if you can see here, it is connecting and then connecting to the FTP and then uploading whatever file changes are there. So as you aware about, since it's a web application, then it is creating a war file. Okay, and that war file will get deployed, and you can see the URL here, right? Like HTTPS and then web app name dot azure websites dot net. So whenever you deploy any web application, if you're not specifying your DNS or if you're not buying your hostname, so it will come up with the Azure website.net. Like I think people might be aware, like let's say if you're creating a WordPress account, so if you don't have domain or if you don't have the host, then by default it will be like .wordpress.com. So similarly, like in Azure also, it's Azure websites.net. Okay, and if you can click here, okay, so once I click this, you can see here, hello Sandeep, right? So this is the web application, and you can have your CSS, your HTML file, your JSP file. If you're working on the JSP file, then you can have the JSP, all those things. You can see it here. Let us do a change here. Okay, now just let me do it. Hello dude. Okay, and let me redeploy it. Okay, let it run. So again, the same process will be, it will stopping that web app, and it will connect to the FTP server, and whatever build war file will be there, it will replace with the old war file, and it will upload the new war file, new artifacts. So logging out of FTP server, now you can see the starting web app, right? Yeah, so you can see here now the changes has been reflected, right? Hello dude. Yeah, so you don't need to do anything, right? Like for example, I'll just relate with the earlier days whenever you used to do. So whenever we build an application, so we have to manage our Tomcat server, or let's say if I'm talking about any application server, then Glassfish or WebLogic, we need to configure it. We have to build manually a war file, and that war file we have to deploy it, right? And then it will deploy it, and the changes will reflect, right? And it will take care of each and everything, even in scaling also. Like let's say there is a lot of load on this web application, then it will do auto scale as well. Okay, so what I was telling, like let me delete this. Okay, one more thing. So before deleting, I can show it to you on the portal as well. Yeah, I can share it to you on the portal. Let me just refresh it, because this is under Java SKS resource group. So the portal will be bit slow. Okay, so if you can see, yeah, you can see here, right? This is the web app. This is the app service, which is deployed into the central US. So can you see this?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah. So let me delete this, okay, so that I can show it to you how can we create that. So let me delete that. I'll
Only
go to
one
the
thing.
Azure and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so on your portal, you have configured different resource groups, like Java resource group and all those things. So you manually go ahead and in your portal and configure individual resource, or it will automatically come up?
No. So that's what I said initially, right? Like resource group, it's a kind of umbrella, right? Like that's what I discussed. Like let's say if you have a 5 environment, then you can create 5 resource group. Okay, and whenever you will be creating a resource, you will have to associate your resource group to that particular resource, so that all those resources will get bundled you within that resource group. Okay, so you have to create resource group. You can create it via Azure portal, You can create it via Azure SDK. You can create via REST APIs. You can create via IntelliJ. You can create via PowerShell. Okay, so these are the multiple ways through which you can create resource group. Not only the resource group, any kind of resource you can create. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, I got your answer. So can you, if you
Okay.
don't mind, can you give a little bit demonstration for only one resource group, like how we
Yeah, yeah,
can
yeah.
handle?
Definitely. I'll be doing that. Okay. Don't worry. So okay, Azure and then deploy to Azure. Okay. So what I said, like let's say if there is a SKS app is already there, but let me delete it. Okay. So let me delete through the portal, and then we will try to create it from IntelliJ. Okay. So this is the app, correct? So this is the app. SKS, I guess this is the one, 656 and 656. Okay, let me delete this. I think it's done. Let me refresh it. Yeah, I guess it's been deleted. Okay, so just let me refresh this. So now you can see here there is nothing listed under the web app section. Okay, so just let me go back again under project and right click Azure, then deploy to Azure. So as you can see here, it's saying no available web app. Click to create a new one, right? So I have to create a web app, correct? So this is the web app which I'm going to create it from the IntelliJ. Okay, I'm not changing anything. Whatever the default configuration is there, everything I had opted. I had opted a Tomcat server and a Linux machine. Okay, and now I'm trying to create a web app. Okay, so meanwhile it is creating a web app. Let me go back to the portal. So as of now, nothing is being created. Yeah, so now it's been created, right? It's been created. Now what I'll be doing, I will just apply and then run. It's building. Okay, yeah, okay. So now you can see there is one more web app has been created, and that web app is SKS app. In last it is a 650. Okay, so you can see here, right? So web app is being created. So I think I hope you would have got the concept through IntelliJ. How would you connect your Azure portal? How can you create any kind of a resource? So since in this example I've just created a web app, okay, and you can create any kind of a resource. So
So Sandeep, one more
yeah,
thing. When you
yeah.
are deploying, so this DNS URL is creating automatically, right? SK as app.
Yes. So this is I have given the name. Did you notice that? By default, whatever name was there, you can change it. Okay,
Okay,
you
but
can change this.
at the end,
Yeah.
Azure
Yes.
app that will come automatically,
Yeah.
right?
That definitely,
Can we change that also?
definitely because yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, so we can change that also, right? We can change the complete URL.
You can change .azure website.net. For that you have to buy your host name or DNS, right? You have to buy
Okay.
your host name, right? You have
Okay.
to map with your DNS. That's correct, right? And you can see I have given a web app name, like whatever default name is was there, that I did not change it. So that's the reason it is showing SKS app and then this number. Correct? Am I clear?
Got it. Got it.
Okay, great. So yeah, so someone was asking, let me close this. We don't need that. Okay. So yeah, someone was asking like, how can we create the resource group, right? So let me go and then. So as of now, I'm having only one resource group. That's a Java SKS, right? That is a Java SKS. So let me create a resource group. So you can see here there are two resource group is been created in my subsection. okay, I can create a number of resource group, I can create a number of resources. So let me create a resource group. So this is how you can create a resource group, right? So you can see the subscription is a free trial. This is a free trial subscription, and I can give any logical resource group name. Maybe maybe we can say ASAP jobs. This is the resource group. And yesterday someone was asking like what are the different reasons or zones are available. So these are the different regions or zone, like East US, East US2, then South Central, West US, Asia Pacific, even Australia is Southeast, Southeast Asia, the North Europe, South. So there are bunch of uh, reason or data center locations are there. So you can opt anyone, whichever you like, you can opt. So generally, what people do, like let's say if their resources are available in one specific region, so they will try to create other resources also in that same region. So let me select, for example, East US. So this is my so for example, if this resource group like ASAP jobs, if it is available over the internet, then it will not allow you to do that. So for example, this resource group is not there, then it will ask me to review and then create. Okay, so as of now there is nothing, like what is a subscription, resource group, and the reason, and then I can create that. Now you can see here the resource group created. Okay, now go to resource group, you can go to the resource group. Okay, so as you can see here, so since this resource group is a new resource group, so you can see there is no resource available in that, right? There is no resource available in that. I have to create a multiple resources, means I can create multiple resource in this resource group. Okay, now if you go to the home, then you can see there is one resource group ASAP jobs, and there is another resource group a Java SKS. If I click on Java SKS, then I can see all the resources which I have created under a Java SKS resource group, right? And if you go back to the ASAP jobs, then there is nothing here because we haven't created any resource. Okay, so just let me create one, for example a web app. We can create a web app here. Okay, so create a resource, you can just go to the create a resource, and then you can go to the web app, you can type web app. Okay, I hope this is the web app. Okay, then I will do the create. Okay, so now you can see what are the details it is asking. Okay, you can see there is a subscription. So by default, since I am having only one subscription, so that's the reason by default that is selected in this subscription. Maybe if if any XYZ organization, they might be having a multiple subscription, so you can select from this drop down. Since I'm having only one subscription, so by default this free trial is there. Okay, now I will have to choose whether this resource, it means this web app where I'm going to create, in which resource group I'm going to create. So if you can see, there are three options. That is ASAP jobs, there is a Java SKS, and then network watcher RG, right? I don't want to create in Java SKS, I want to create in this ASAP jobs. Okay, so just I have selected ASAP jobs. Okay, then you have to give a logical name or unique name for your web application or for your resource. Maybe I can give a ASAP jobs web app or app. Okay, now okay, so here you can see the publish option. You don't want, as of now we don't want any Docker container, so that's the reason I'm not going to do the Docker container. I'm just doing a code, and you will be having to choose your runtime stack and there are bunch of options are available like .NET Core, and you can see any you can opt any version like .NET Core 3.1 or 3.0 or 2.1 or maybe ASP.NET and Java 11. You can opt a Java 8, right? You can opt Java 8, and if someone is working on the Node, then they can opt a Node. Someone is working on the PHP, not for PHP or Python or Ruby, any kind of language, any kind of tech stack, you can opt it here. Let's say if I'm opting only Java SC, and you can opt operating system either Linux or Windows, right? Either Linux or Windows. Let it default to Linux. I have chosen a Linux, and reason again, the reason I have to select. I can select East US. I can opt for East US. Okay. So now here is the size. Okay, here is the size, and here you can see someone asked me the pricing, like how can we check the pricing and all. So let it load. Okay, you can see here, right? You can see 4,800. Okay, so 4,873.28 INR per month if you're going for this, right? And this would be 210 total ACU and 3.5 GB memory, and it's a D series machine. Okay, and if you want to upgrade it, then you can go for the P2V2, and if you want to upgrade, then P3V3, you can go for that. Okay, and then since I'm just doing for a dev and test purpose, so I'm not going to create a production grade or isolated or something.
What is mean by that P1 V2 P2 V2?
That's a machine name. That's a machine name. That's a category. It's nothing. It's just a category. So it's a P1 V2 and P2 V2. It's just a category or name. Maybe in prod you will be getting a different or dev or test. Okay. Sorry, I was on the prod. Like let's say if I'm going for the dev and test, right? So I can go for the 1 GB memory. There is no need, and you can see here a 60 minutes per day, 60 minutes per day, and compute is free. Okay, compute is free here. Or this is a F1 machine and this is a B1 machine. So it's nothing but it's just a name. Okay, and whichever you want you can select. So I'm just going to opt F1 machine, which is having a configuration of 1 GB RAM. Okay, just let me apply that. Then monitoring, I don't want to do anything. In tag I will not do. Review and create. Okay, so let me create that. Okay, so it's deploying your solution. Oh, yeah, it's been deployed. So you can see your deployment is underway. Okay, so by the time it is getting deployed, let's discuss on other things. Okay, so now maybe this is a resource group. If you refresh it, one more resource group would be there, and that's a AsappJobs. And if you click on the AsappJob, then you can see at least one resource if it is deploying. Now you can see the condition, right? Deployment 1 deploying. It's not deployed it, and that's the reason it is you can't see that. You can't see that. Okay, so still it's going, and you can see all those notification here, all those notification here, like it is what it is doing. It is deployment in progress running. Then as we created the resource group, you can see one notification here like resource group created. We had deleted that web app. You can see execute delete command and one selected item. Okay, maybe my internet is slow, or maybe portal is slow, so it's taking bit time.
So it might be like you are using US East, right? Maybe due to that also.
Yeah, that is also, yeah, that is also one reason. But the problem is if I will opt South India center, then uh, in that zone there are very few resources are available. Few free resources are available. You can create, but you have to pay that. Okay.
So for the availability of your content, once you deploy or create your web app, server running in US East. So, do you need to deploy it to South India or any other region also, like in Australia or any?
So yeah, that's what I showed, right? Like you can opt it from the drop down. So whichever you will opt, whichever reason you will opt, your resources will get deployed there only.
Yeah, that's what I'm confirming. Like, so
Yeah,
this, so you have now selected only US East region, right?
correct,
So
correct,
you got resources only for a US region. So if
correct.
somebody is sitting in the US, they can uh, access your URL or your web contents. But if somebody is sitting in the Asia Pacific, he won't be able
Hmm.
to get access that
Why
web
why he
contents.
won't be? Yeah, why he won't be able to access? Just means what could be the
Just
reason why
question.
he?
I
Huh?
don't know. Like,
Okay. So yeah, definitely anyone can access because you can see. Okay, just because we are sitting in India, right? So let me just uh, access that. Yeah. So you can see here, right? This is the URL. Okay. So this is the URL. If I click on that URL, I had given ASAppJobs -app, right? So this was the app name. This was the app name, and this is Azure website.net because we have deployed on to their host. So that's the reason it's coming. So if you can see here the location, you can see all those detail. Like in overview section, you can see what is the resource group name, what is the URL of your application, okay, what is the location, what is the subscription, and everything you can see it here. Even you can see the code also, like 5 series code or 4 series code or any API code, right? And what are the data input, what are the data output is there, right? Request and average response. Okay, so these are the different option. Okay, one more thing I will just show it to you by the time it's opening. Okay, yeah, so there is an option for development tool. Okay, now I guess it's been deployed. Yeah, can you see this? ASAppJobs -app Azure website.net. So this is the application which we have created right now, and we have deployed it.
yeah, we can
So
see.
yeah, so since we are sitting in India, and we will be able to access, so that should not be a problem. Okay, so whenever you deploy your resource in any of the region throughout the, because it is available over the HTTP, right? So until unless if you have not blocked or if you have not applied any security or firewall mechanism, because this is available at the internet, right? So you can see it from anywhere, because we haven't applied any firewall policies, right? Because there are a lot of configuration, a lot of things are there which we can apply, or maybe there might be a, let's say, a banking application, right? I'm just giving you a hypothetical situation. So banking application or finance application, if I will be deploying, so that should be accessible only intranet, right? Not internet. So there I can apply my firewall, my policies, my rules and regulation. I can, while creating or deploying into the app also, I can have the firewall configured, I can have my VNet configured, so that no one will be able to access that application over the internet, right? So yeah, so what I was telling, like there are development tools are available. Like if someone is interested or someone wants to do some development tool, or if you want to do if you want to check the logs, or if you want to deploy something from the server itself, then there is a tool called advanced tool here. Okay, if you click on the advanced tool, so here you can see that advanced tool provide a collection of developer oriented tool and extensibility point for your app service, right? I can go there. So whenever I will click on the go, it will open a developer tool. It will open a developer tool. Okay. There you will be having an option for SSH, like you can do SSH. Okay. Maybe you can see it here. You can this is your app services, and these are the REST APIs are available, like app setting and deployment and source control info. You can see the files. What are the different files are there? You can see the environment. What are the different environments? So these are the environment which is being set by the Azure. So these are the system level parameter. Maybe you might be aware about HTTP headers, like what are the different kind of headers we are passing. So these are the different paths. These are the different REST path, REST endpoint, you can say that. Okay, and then if I go to the SSH, then it will give me a SSH command prompt, okay, where I can log into the system, and I can check the log. I can see the file, what is the file name, and if I want to update the file, that also I can do it here in host. Okay, so this is about the tools. Yeah, one more thing I just wanted to explain here, like we are having an option API management also. Okay, so just let me show it here, web SSH. Okay, so this is a SSH tool. It's loading. As of now, it's not been loaded. Okay, so by the time it will get loaded, let me tell you about the API management. So there is an option for the API management in here in web app. So in API management, like let's say if I want to restrict, or if I want to apply a rate limit on my application, then I can choose the API management. Okay, like here you can see it is telling me to create a API management. Since I don't have any API management as of now, sorry, then I can create it. I can do a create new, and I can create a API management, and then I can define my policies. Okay, so policies in what terms? Policies, like let's say if I want to allow a developer to access those API only 10 times in a given second. Okay, so those things I can apply. So this is one kind of a policy which I can apply through the API management. Okay, so another kind of policies I can do it, like let's say if I want to block that API into a specific region or specific zone, that also I can do through with the API management. Okay, if third thing, like yesterday I discussed a developer portal, like every tech companies will be having their own developer portal. So if whatever APIs are available in my organization, if I want to list it out into the centralized location, I can register my all the Swagger files or the API documentation to the API management portal. So all those API will get listed over there. So the API management will be the first point of contact over the internet, right? Whenever someone will try to access, like for example, in this case, if someone is trying to hit this URL, AsappJobs-app.azurewebsites.net, right? So the first request will go to the API gateway, and then it will check your credential whether you are able to access or not. It will check for your role-based access control, and then it will allow you. It will give you the token, or maybe it will give you the token, or it will allow you, and then it will let you to reach till this web app. Okay, so I think it's not been loaded. Okay, so this is a SSH where you can do a PWD and all, and you can see the file routes, everything. So this is about API management. Now here you can see the alerts monitoring and all. You can specify alert monitoring. Like let's say if I want to, for example, there is a problem in my web app, or my web app is down, or some, I can have a multiple logic, right? And so I can set alert rules here, like new alert rules, right? New alert rules. I can select this, and I can have a multiple condition, bunch of condition and group email notification and all, everything I can do that. So okay, then metrics you can see, logs you can see. Okay, even you can stream your logs, right? Even you can stream your logs. One more thing I just wanted to show it to you. Yeah, so yesterday we were discussing about the backup. So here we can mention the backup also, like disaster recovery or anything. Okay, And yeah, someone was asking about the domain. So here you can specify your custom domains. Okay, you can, if you don't want azure.websites.net, then you can have your custom domain. So then let's talk about the deployment slot. So this is also one of the important feature of web app. Okay, so now, okay, so since I have opted for a basic one, so it's not allowing me allowing me to create a development slot, deployment slot. Okay, so I have to upgrade that. So what exactly the deployment slot is, like, let's say if I have one instance, and definitely if I can correlate with the, for example, Amazon or Flipkart. So for example, there will be a lot of load on the order service, right? As compared to the as compared to maybe we can talk about the review service. So since it's a microservices architectural style, we are working on a microservices architectural style. So all these components are individually working, right? So definitely there will be hell lot of load on order service in comparison of a review or feedback system or feedback microservice, right? So in that case, we will require a lot of instances of order services, right? Lot of instance of order service. So here also, what I can do, I can have my deployment slot. I can go with a multiple copy of that instance. I can distribute my traffic, like let's say I can divide, okay, 50%, maybe round robin, or 50-50, or 60-40, anything. I can do it through here. Okay. Yeah, so any question till now? Yeah, now it's been loaded, this SSH. Okay, so you can see here, I can write the command pwd, sorry, pwd. Yeah, you can see the home. I can do ls. Yeah, so now you can see this is ASP.NET and log file and the site. I can go to the site. It's a bit slow. CD site, then I can do ls. Yeah, now you can see the deployment logs, repository, and www root. So the page which you were able to see, that hey Java developer, right? So that page was deployed into www root. So I can go to the www root. Okay, and then ls. Yeah, you can see the hosting start.html. Now you can do the changes, whatever you want to do the change. You can directly go to these HTML file and you can change something, and then again you will have to redeploy it. Okay, so till now, any doubt, any question, any queries?
So if we want to manage our users, so this is IAM, Access Control Management.
Correct. So there would be Azure Active Directory. Okay, I will just show it to you. There is one more resource that's called Active Directory. Active Azure Active Directory, right? Here is that Azure Active Directory. So I think most of the people might be aware about LDAP. So similarly, like LDAP, this is Azure Active Directory. It can be on premises or it can be over the cloud. You can create your own Active Directory also. Like let's try to create that. Okay, I will not be creating it, but just giving the example. So here you can give the organization name, like for example ASAP, and then you can give the initial domain name ASAP. So what it would be like, asap.onmicrosoft.com. It means your Outlook and all, everything can be accessed on this asap.onmicrosoft.com. Okay, so this would be the Active Directory. If you can notice here it did not ask you for the resource group, right? Because it is not related to the resource group, it is related to the organization. It is at the tenant level, right? So tenant is a very high level. Under tenant we can have multiple subscription, and under one subscription we can have multiple resource group, and under one resource group, we can have multiple resources. So it is not related to the resource group, it is not related to the subscription, it is a very high level, so it is related to the organization level, right? So that's the reason it did not ask you for the resource group, because you cannot create active directory, or you cannot create your directory within any given resource group, right? So did I answer your question? So this is how you can create the active directory, and whenever you are trying to do authentication and authorization for your web application or mobile application, you will just have to configure it. Okay, just let me show it here. Let's go there. AsappJobs. There is one option here like authentication and authorization. As of now it is off. As soon as if I will do on, then you then this is how we can implement the sorry our authentication and authorization. And since I have not created an active directory, so it is not giving an option. Whenever I will create active directory, then it will be giving you so whatever application is there, that application needs to be registered with that active directory. Okay, so for example, here application is also working as a kind of a resource, right? Application is also a resource, and even end user, that is also acting as a resource, right? So user will be having a user ID and password, okay, and application will be having a client ID, secret, and service principal. So I think a lot of things you might not get, because these are the means just generic terms in terms of the active directory. So that's the reason I don't want to go over there, because we cannot cover all those things in this webinar. Okay, so so this is all about web app. Okay, so let me try to create a virtual machine. Okay, so even I have created a virtual machine. First of all, I will just try to access that VM. Okay, so you can see the SKS VM2 here. This is I have created. So I can go to that VM. There will be a connect option. Okay, as soon as I connect, so there are multiple options. I can connect that VM through RDP. RDP, it means remote desktop protocol. Okay, then through SSH I can create, and through Bastion protocol, right? Let's go to RDP. Okay, I don't know whether it's up or not. Let me just check whether my VM is up and running. Yeah, my VM is running. Go to the connect and RDP. I've already downloaded that, so I don't want to download it again. Okay, yeah. So now it's asking me my username and password. I can give my username, password. Okay, and then continue. And it will tell you're connected to the RDP. Then continue. I don't know whether it will get connected or not because of network issues. Maybe I might be having a slow internet connection. Okay, so let it try. By the time I can just show it to you, how can we create a virtual machine? Okay. So as of now, you can see I have only one virtual machine. Okay, I guess it's been connected. So can you guys see the blank screen as well?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay. So it's loading. Yeah, it's getting loaded. Yeah. So let me go back to the portal. So in virtual machine, as of now I'm having only one VM. Okay, I can create another VM. Now I will be creating that VM in AsappJobs resource group. I will be having an option for the resource group. I will be opting AsappJobs, and then I can give AsappJobs -VM. Okay. So probably I will not be going to create in South India, in East US, because the problem is, okay, I can show it to you why I'm not creating in South India. Just let me show it. South India. Here is Asia Pacific, South India, no infrastructure. Can you see here, select size, the value must not be empty, right? I can, whenever, okay, let me, I don't want any availability options. So earlier someone was asking about availability zone and all. Okay, so you can opt availability zone, but for this Asia Pacific, South India, and for this free trial, there is no availability zone is available. Maybe I have to upgrade, then only I can see that availability zone and then availability set. I can check availability set, but I cannot choose availability zone. And image, I can opt anything, maybe Ubuntu, as yesterday I said, any image you can opt, maybe Ubuntu or Red Hat or CentOS or Debian or Windows 2, 2019, 2016, 2016, 2012, or Windows 10 Pro, anything you can opt. Okay, let me select a 2019 data center. Okay, yeah, so I'll just show it to you. I'm able to successfully logged in this VM. Can you see this VM?
Yeah, we
Yep.
can.
Okay, great. So you can see, so since I'm using a Mac OS, and you can see this is a window because I had opt 2019 data center, and you can see all these Windows file, desktop, and download everything, right? And you can see here the Windows.
So how much memory we can maximum utilize on this
Yeah.
VM?
Okay. I will just tell you. Okay. So here you can see, right? If you go to the window button, you can select the server manager and PowerShell ISC control panel, task manager, everything. So this is the one of the machines, right? Okay. So let me show it to you. Then I will be able to answer your question. Okay. So let me select the size. You were asking about the size, right? So you can see here, these are the offerings like standards there, and by default there is a filter. And these filter has been selected because of the free trial. I can clear the filter. Yeah, I've cleared the filter. But if you can see, okay, yeah, if you can see, there are only these many options are available for me, right? These many options are available. Only 3 options are available in South India, and under free trial subscription, and the OS is Ubuntu. It doesn't matter whichever OS I will opt, I will be having only these options. So can you, how many it is? I guess 2,79,658. Correct? So this is the cost, 2,79,658 per month. I cannot opt, right? I cannot afford. So that's the reason I did not choose South India, because and if you can see the configuration here, right? So there is a 500 temporary storage, and it's a premium disk support, and max IO operation input output is I guess it's 10,000. The data disk is 16, and the RAM size is 437.5 gig RAM is there, and it's a 4-core machine. It's a memory optimized, and it's a standard machine, and the VM size is 16 to 4 millisecond. That I don't know what exactly the size is. What is the measurement of the size? Okay. So did I answer your question
Got it.
regarding the cost and all? Okay, great. So that's the reason I did not opt. Okay, so let me opt again East US. Okay, and then there is no need. Now can you see, I can opt availability zone and I can opt availability set. Can you see it here, right? Availability zone is there, availability set is there, right? So, and you can see the size, the default size, the size is 3.5 gig. Okay, this is the memory, and by default the size has been taken 1 core, 1 CPU. I can, and the price is 6,079 rupees per month. This I can afford, but I will not go for that. I will just change the size. Okay, and I will sort it based on the cost per month. So can you see the minimum cost is 472.85. Okay, so what I'm having here, I'm having only 0.5 GB RAM, only 0.5 GB RAM. So that is one more reason for this slowness of this machine. That is also one more reason. Whenever if you click on anything, right, it will take a lot of time to load. If I will click internet, then the system will get kind of sleep mode. So that's the reason. Let me select this 472 rupees per month. Okay, select this. Okay. So till now everything is clear, fine.
Yeah, Sandeep. So everything is clear.
Okay, great. So yeah, so I think you would have got this subscription, reason, availability, option, image, and as a spot instance size. Then I can opt my user ID and password. Like whenever you must have noticed when I was trying to do a remote desktop for my VM, then I logged in with some credential, that username and password, right? I can give some username, ASAppJobs, and then maybe some password. Correct. Right. So I can mention my username, I can mention my password and confirm password. Then I can define my inbound port, right? Like RDPs 3389. I can select multiple option. I can select HTTP also. I can opt SSH also. I can opt HTTPS also. So you guys must be aware about HTTPS. That's a secured layer, and HTTP it's non-secure, and SSH and RDP. And then what I can do, I can go to the next disk space, and there I can opt a premium SSD or standard HDD or standard SSD. These are the different type of machines, right? So whenever you opt a standard HDD, it will give you a warning like a selected VM site support a premium disk. We recommend premium SSD for high IOPS, right? Input output operations workload, right? And then you can mention the encryption type and then data disk, right? And then you can have an X networking. Okay, so here one more important part, since actually we are running out of time, so I could not display to the VNet. So that's the reason I had opted a virtual machine where VNet will also get covered. Okay, so here the thing is you can opt a virtual network. You can create a virtual network. Okay, or you can associate it with any of the created virtual net. For example, I have three VNet option. I have two VNet option, like Java SKS VNet I had created, a VNet 2 I had created. I can opt a VNet. Then I can specify my subnet. I can go my public IP, and then I can opt all these things. So these are by default. So here again, this inbound port, right? Select inbound port. So what I can do, I can just, let me show it to you only RDP. Just this. I have opted Java SKS VNet. If you guys want, I can create a VNet also. So that's not a problem. Let me create it. ASAP VNet. Okay. So this is a new one, or I can create like this ASP VNet, or I can use given also Java SKS VNet. Now I'm having a subnet and public IPs, everything. I can review this and create it. Okay, so you can see here it's a 0.6477 in rupees per hour. So this would be the cost, because I have opted only a minimum configuration, minimum operations. I had created VNet also there, and then I can create it. It will take some time because it will create the VNet, it will link with the VNet, it will create the virtual machine. Along with the virtual machine, I can show it to you, it will create multiple resources as well. Let me go to that AsappJobs. Okay, so by the time it is getting created, let me show it to you one logic app example also, because that also we were supposed to cover this. Quickly I will do that. Logic app. So logic app is nothing but it's just a serverless application, and you don't need any server or any code is required. It's kind of a designer also is there, and using JSON also you can do that. Okay, so I will select the resource group AsappJobs, and then logic app name I can give AsappJobs hyphen logic app, and then I can select my region East US and review and then create. Okay, it's validation is successful. Just create it. This deployment is going on. So if you can see the notification, there are two deployment going on. One is the virtual machine, and another one is the logic app. Let me close this. Now if you go to the AsappJobs resource group, then you can see in AsappJobs resource group I am having AsappJobs app, then one VM IP, then VM NSG. As I said, whenever I will try to create a virtual machine, then by default there will be NSG, network security group will be created, there will be a VNet will get created, and VM IP will get created. Okay, so those are the things which will get created. So yeah, so still it is connected, that VM, that Java SKS VM. You can see it here, right? SKS VM2, SKS hyphen VM2. So this is my VM name. Okay, so I think still deployment is going on. I guess deployment succeeded. Go to the resource. Cool. So that's this logic app deployment, it's been successful, right? So how can we create the logic app? Can go to the blank logic app. Okay, and what I'm going to do that, so I'm just taking one use case, like let's say there is a RSS feed. Okay, maybe you can take an example of Twitter. For Twitter, there is some tweets are coming for hashtag, like let's say hashtag corona. Okay, and in using that tweet, what I can do, whenever a new tweet comes onto that particular RSS feed platform, I just wanted to send one email notification, maybe to one user or to multiple user. Okay, like so here the option is RSS feed, for example, RSS feed. Yeah, so here you can see I can opt a RSS feed. So this would be my trigger. This would be my trigger. Whenever a feed will be coming to that particular RSS feed, so here I can specify my frequency. So I can specify like monthly I want to send the alert, or weekly or daily or hourly or minute or second, right? As of now I want a minute based, and I can do it every minute. Every minute I just wanted to send an email notification. So let's say if I'm just following this feed, so when the last feed is, okay, so the last feed is 6:44. So 6:31 and then 6:44. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I just wanted to configure that URL. Okay. I just wanted to configure that particular URL. So this is my feed URL, and this is my frequencies. Like I want to send an email notification for every minute. Okay. And then just mention a new steps. What I want to do. What I want to do, I want to send an Gmail notification, or maybe I want to send an email notification. For example, I want to do a Gmail notification. I can opt the Gmail. Okay, I can do the send email. right? I will not sign in my Gmail account. You can sign in it here via default shared application. And once you sign in, right? So once you sign in, it will give you another pop-up for your user ID, like to whom you want to send an email, okay, or to whom, what is the subject, what is the body, what are the email list. Maybe we can provide a distribution list, a DL we can mention, DL we can mention over there. And then what we can do, we can just save it and run this. So automatically what exactly it will be doing, it will be uh, keep on polling or keep on polling that feed URL. Not polling, it's a kind of a push mechanism. So whenever a new feed will be coming to the RSS feed, right? So for that moment, it will take that feed ID. Okay. Yeah. So I think this is done. ASAP jobs, and under that ASAP jobs, the VM is already okay. Now you can see I have my VM. My VM got created, right? So this is my VM, ASAP jobs -VM, and I can connect it through RDP. Whenever I want to do, I will have to download the RDP file, and whenever I will click it, it will open this RDP, and I will have to enter what was the username, ASAP jobs. Right, and then continue. Got it. Then continue. It's configuring. It will take some time because it will configure the remote machine, and then it will give it to you. By the time I will just uh, close the earlier VM, let it connect. Okay. So this is what about the logic app. I'm not going to authenticate my Gmail, but this is how we can do that. We can authenticate and we can mention email ID and all, right? So I think now we are done with that. So any question or queries anyone is having? Because we have covered logic app, we have covered VNet, we have covered virtual machine and web app, and I showed it to you like how you can connect via IntelliJ to your portal. Yeah. So any queries or question for me?
Yeah, so far whatever you have covered is good. The only thing is, I think
Thank
we
you.
need to do a little bit more practice and more hands-on on this.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, things are pretty good. So, by any chance, will you be able to cover that Kubernetes or deployment? Or
Sorry, I think we are running out of time. It was 4:30, so I will not be able to do that.
Uh, I'm not having any question. The overall the session was good, excluding the IntelliJ part, because the
Mhm.
expectation was having exploring all the options whatever we have in Azure. But starting with that IntelliJ integration, it was like I felt like kind of a deviation there. If it was not there, it would be an awesome session. Maybe
Okay,
next time you
so
can take this as a template.
you meant to say you were not expecting IntelliJ integration.
Yes,
Okay,
it is
okay.
just a
So
one
why?
tool, right?
Yeah. Okay, okay. No, no. The thing is, why I had shown, why I had demoed that part, because I think in this audience there are a lot of developer, so they might not be using only the portal. They might be using a tool, IntelliJ or Eclipse or any, because at the end. It's not about only going the portal and creating the resources. So that's the reason I thought let me give one demo on IntelliJ, because that same logic or same thing is with the other tool also, like VS Code or maybe Eclipse or any other tool also. So that's the reason I had demoed it. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sandeep. Guys, do we have any questions before we wrap up this amazing workshop?
I do not have. Is anyone else?
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you very much everyone. Thanks a lot, and thanks for your time.